personally, and he'll continue to work those out. From a football perspective, to your point, when you walk on that field, there's not a guy better in the NFL of blocking out the noise. When he hits in between those lines, when he hits the locker room and with the guys, he will be laser focused. He is the driver of this organization. You know, we talked about Bruce Arians back when they first joined, and now Todd Bowles. And what does that look like? It's not the head coach. It's not the general manager. It's no one else. It is Tom Brady is the driver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So as he walks in that building, everybody else takes their cues from him. He will be spot on. He will continue to tell guys where they should be, how they should be. This is the best opportunity for us to win. It will have no impact on their football season.
So, Bart, I mean, no one went up against him more in their career than you. Directly against him. You're the linebacker staring across when you're in Baltimore with those great defenses and then the division with the Jets.
Yeah.
His focus is obviously the key to his success. Are you at all concerned?
To just point zero. I mean, athletes are able, especially the great ones, to compartmentalize, what the task at hand is. When you walk in those buildings, nothing outside of those buildings can touch you. You're not worried about anything. You're around your brothers. Everybody there is locked in at the task at hand. It takes everything that you have to sacrifice for your body, your mind, and being able to play at a high level. And the standard for him is high. He's the greatest to ever do it. And I think he's trying to create even more distance. I think last year really left a sour taste in his mouth. He wanted to go out with the storybook ending. He has an opportunity to do that, but he has to be all in if that's going to be the narrative.
Yeah, let me say this. He goes away for 11, how many days? He was
11 days.
Walks back into Indianapolis in the preseason game. And the dude is locked in.
Yeah.
Line locked in, offense locked in, tempo locked in. Like I looked at it, I was like, is this week 8? And it's the preseason game. And this guy, he don't even need to play in the preseason. But how he got, and you see the tempo, the energy, it all stems from him. He didn't go to Tennessee. This was their first look on the field together. Man, it's an amazing feat that he has the ability to do it.
As I turn to Dan, we can show you their first 4 games are tough. I mean, the Buccaneers will not start it easily. And Chrissy, if we can put up their first 4 games. They open with Dallas. That's not an easy game. At the Saints, that's been their nemesis.
Yeah,
then he's got Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes back-to-back weeks. How are we feeling and what are we hearing coming out of Tampa right now, Dan?
Well, I think everything is good, to Jeff's point, on the field in terms of in the locker room. Like when he is in the building, you talk to people there anytime in the last couple of years, when Tom is in the building, things feel all's right with the world.
Right.
And when he came back from his absence, my understanding is that's been the feeling in the building. He talked in that same podcast episode last night about stuff he's doing to try and motivate his offensive linemen, like telling people the negative things that are being written about them and all that kind of stuff. And so, he's still doing all the football stuff and the get ready for the season stuff, even while obviously something significant's going on in his life.
Then let me do that job for him right now, Jeff Saturday. The interior of their offensive line is a real problem. If they have an Achilles heel right now, it's that. Is that right or wrong?
Wrong. I mean, it is a concern, not a worry. And at left guard in particular, but everywhere else, they will be just fine. They will go. And listen, if there is a guy in the business who understands how to dictate to defenses how he can get himself protected, it's that guy. Before the play has even begun, he knows where he's going with the ball and how to manipulate the defense. I don't have a concern with him having for the entire season.
Okay, there's no one whose opinion on offensive line I respect more than yours, so I like that. Bart, give me the defensive side. If you're facing them week 1, knowing what you know about the interior of their offensive line, what are you doing?
I'm attacking the A gaps and the B gaps. I understand
that's inside. You're going directly up the middle.
Yeah, and because that's always been a knock on Tom. If you want to have success against Tom, get him off his spot, hit him early. If you hit him early, then he'll start to kind of have that eternal clock. The only concern I have is when you look at the teams that he's playing the first 4 games, they have quarterbacks that can match his football acumen. You talk about those are great players as well. That's going to force him to play at a high level. I don't know if you have a couple of mishaps like right there. You look at him losing the ball, interior pressure. Something about the Saints. They have a beat. They have a beat at what they have, and if they struggle early,
that's because they beat you at all 5 positions on offensive line. That's the Saints. It's not just an interior. It's all 5.
But are you concerned with? I'm concerned with Todd Bowles and the narrative that will be made if they struggle early on, and how that affects the rest of the team.
Let me jump to something else here, but we can come back to that. There's a lot there, and obviously he gets Micah Parsons on Sunday night. But our next stop is Baltimore, and this is a very interesting and important story. We just had Mark Andrews, the tight end there from Baltimore, on talking about how locked in and focused Lamar Jackson continues to be despite his self-imposed contract deadline as the season begins on Sunday. John Harbaugh was talking about this yesterday, about the lack of a new deal for his quarterback. Here's the coach.
He's hopeful to get a new contract. We're hopeful to get him a new contract. But all the rest of it is business. I mean, there's nothing other than coming to something that's mutually agreeable. That's the way all these deals are done, you know. So, you know, obviously I'm very hopeful, you know, and I think I know everybody's really hopeful to get it done. My interactions with Lamar have been all football, and he's been focused and locked in on that 100% from a football standpoint.
All right, first of all, that's like how to handle that question 101, right? You can't do it better than John Harbaugh just did it. That said, Dan Graziano, I thought the insight that you shared with us earlier today about just how cohesive they truly are between Lamar and the front office, I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, and this speaks to the strength of the organization, which is one of the more reliably strong organizations in the entire league. Lamar Jackson does not have a contentious relationship with the Baltimore front office just because they're not doing this contract. Each side understands where the other is, and you know they haven't been able to close the gap. They're okay with taking it into next spring, putting it to the side for this season, and doing it again next offseason. To the point where, like, they actually huddled, like Lamar and Harbaugh and the GM Eric DeCosta to talk about before their press conferences, like, what are we going to say about this? How are we going to stay on message? So, yeah, we heard Mark Andrews a few minutes ago on this show talk about how locked in he is, how focused he is. Lamar Jackson is a different sort of dude. There are plenty of people that in the final year of their contract would be worried about very little else, if anything. I don't think Lamar Jackson is that kind of guy.
Look, I understand that, but I don't care how different you are. When $230 million are at stake, there has to be some of that in your mind. Now, you keep telling me the Ravens is a different organization. Yeah. I understand, but I find it impossible to believe that everything is just 100. At the end of the day, they're not giving him whatever it is he wants. Yeah. And if anyone deserves it in the state of Texas, what do you think?
I'm not going to give you the Bart Scott treatment that I just gave, but I will say this. You better be cautiously optimistic here, all right? Cautiously. You still got Jalen Hurts has got to prove it. This is a great offensive line, great defensive line, great rushing attack. Can they, if they get behind against teams or they struggle early, can they come back and put up points offensively? That would be my question. So Jalen Hurts is going to be kind of your thermostat, right? If he goes, they go. If not, you're going to have issues. I'm letting you know. You're discounting the Vikings, the Cards, the Steelers. There are still some teams in there that could give them problems because they can make it physical type teams. So the 7-2, I'm not 100% against it.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
Two of them will beat the Eagles. They'll split the tough ones and they'll win the easy ones.
Well, the Cowboys have put on a pretty good 5 of 6 as well. So let's not just walk all the way through this. So there's a reason we play some. I mean, you know, I know he covers them. There's a reason we play some.
What do you think, Bart?
Listen, the Eagles are trending in the right direction. This is a quarterback user-friendly type.
We haven't played a game. What are you talking about?
But one thing we know is for sure, that offensive line is the most physical offensive line in all the game.
Agreed.
And now you have a quarterback that can add to the running game, that led the league in rushing last year. Now you can go out and you give him 2 weapons on the outside. If you dare creep that 8th man in the box, you got one-on-ones on the outside with Smith and Brown. should be barbecue chicken. Listen, this team takes the wheel from you. I'm telling you, Jeff Friday. Greeny is on one today.
Listen, I agree. The offensive line. They were 9-7 with the best rushing attack last year. Yep. So let's not get like we're going to stamp 13 wins to this football team right now because of their schedule. You still got to go play him, and he's got to make those throws to those studs on the outside.
Graziano, are they barbecue chicken?
I don't know what that means.
I don't even know what it means.
It's hard for me to say.
But I liked the question.
But yeah, look, I think they're a good-looking roster. I think I think they're a really good-looking roster on the defensive line. They have a lot of good pieces. But I think Jeff is correct that it's about the quarterback. He's a young player. Young players still make mistakes. I don't think it's going to be – I hear great things about Jalen Hurts and where he is and what he's doing. I think he's going to show improvement this year. But I think that's a stretch to say 7-2. I think they're a good team. I don't think that 9-7 last year. The Cowboys demolished them twice.
Yes.
Yeah, here's what I will say. Washington's a division game. You're going to just
they say they have Carson Wentz.
They definitely got the better part of that. Here's what I will say. I understand that Jalen Hurts is a question. No one could dispute that. But there's something about that kid that makes me feel like his answers are going to be yes.
100%.
There's something about him 100%. Going back to his day, the way he handled the Alabama situation, everything else about this. I believe in the kid.
And they're not asking much.
Not necessarily in year 2 as a starter, right? Because there's going to be ups and downs with young players. He's
handled a lot of nonsense all too well in his career.
I'm not throwing my guy under the bus. But we won 11 games with Mark Sanchez.
Yes.
And this is
yes,
very
you are. You're
similar.
throwing him under the bus.
This is no. This is very
Somebody blow the horn.
You're not
Get
pulling
this
him
guy
out from
shoved.
under the bus.
no, I love you, Mark. Man, you know I love you, man. But this is a very similar roster. This is complete. They had issues on the back end. They went out and go get Bradbury to kind of shore that secondary up. This offensive line, I watched them just take the manhood from people. They move people against their will, Jeff Saturday.
Yeah, let's just live in a world for a moment, though, if I may, where I'm closer to right than wrong. And the Cowboys, who have the absolute opposite, the beginning of their schedule is brutal. And that Week 6 game against the Eagles
is enormous.
If they're hovering in the area of 2-4, and one of those losses is in the division to a team that's up and away, what's that going to sound like around? That's the Eagles' first. Look at who the Cowboys have to play. They've got Tampa, Cincinnati, the Rams, and then the Eagles. If they lose that Eagles game, they're probably staring at 2-4, or could easily be. Let's put it that way. Then what's it going to sound like in Big D, Jeff Saturday?
Straight panic. There'll be a lot of panic going on.
Let me ask you this. What might Jerry Jones say in his own inimitable way if that's the way things are going?
Say, man, way we're playing's got me lower than a crippled cricket, boys. Jerry's got to see something better from you, man. Let's make it happen. But I have heard those words to the ear. I have heard them spoken.
And then look, Dan Quinn is in the building. The guy he wants to be his coach, and the guy he really